we would not be having this conversation right here, right now, had I not asked for help. And the place where I had to ask for help, and it's really humbling and vulnerable to say this as a now successful advisor. I was 2 years into being an advisor, and I had to take a job as an assistant, which was humbling. And in the course of that, I found myself at the grocery store charging my groceries. And I was like, something's got to change.
Hi, I'm Meg Heritage, and welcome back to Positivity in Practice. Today, I get to introduce you to my dear, sweet friend, Melissa Myers from MMG Wealth Management. She is a light and an amazing resource in mentorship to women and just is so many things. So, entrepreneur, I mean, there's a million titles for you, but welcome, Melissa. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to it.
I know, and you had me on your podcast, and that was so much fun. So it took me, I think, literally a year.
It was just about a year.
Oh,
Yep.
girl, I'm terrible. So I'm glad you're here today, though. I want to know more about your backstory.
What part of it? There's so many parts. Like the professional part.
I think, I think what is it in your story that inspired you to be inside of this finance space and really lean into helping people to understand? That's what I think of when I think of you. I think of, I really want to know what your goals are, and I really want to know what your values are, and then help them build. Like every time I've heard you talk, it's your heart center. You're very specific. You're not like a one portfolio fits all and this is what we're going to do. And, I want to know what drove you to be so intentional.
Well, first of all, it goes way back to college because my major is in biology. And so I pivoted, and I
makes total sense.
wasn't afraid to stay in one lane. And I started working for a restaurant group and really enjoyed that, and didn't think that I would really do anything with biology. And so at one point they had told me that they were going to close down the restaurant, and I just bought my first house.
Wow.
And so I was faced with some questions and thoughts about, really, is this the best place for me to be? And one of my coworkers got interviewed for American Express Financial Advisors.
Oh.
And now Ameriprise. And I was curious, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to explore what else is out there. And come to find out, you just needed a degree at that time to get hired at Morgan Stanley. And so that was the start of where I originated from. And my passion really, it took about a year and a half of being an advisor and hearing the other advisors in the office kind of hooting and hollering when the market was up and the market was down, and it was the tech bubble and then 9/11 a year later. And I was just thinking, you know what, this is a lot of stress. I don't like true disclosure here. I don't like being wrong.
Yeah.
And
Same.
so to sit here and make recommendations on individual stocks, like that was really hard for me to do. And one day a representative from the financial planning department was coming through the office, and I didn't have any clients at the time, so I listened. And she had my ear, and I decided, you know what? I can go a different route. I can start asking people about what their overall plans are, not just about trying to gather money and make a stock trade here and there. And it was way different. So the other advisors in the office just kept saying, you know what, that's a lot of work. That takes a lot of time. Why are you doing that? But because I persevered, it really, I always look at my whole entire career as one step in front of the other, 1 foot in front of the other, one step at a time, and God's been right there alongside of me.
Yeah. So is it because I have a guy that we've like grown up with long before I had any money, and that was long before I knew you. But is it really that most of these larger houses like that are it's sort of, here's your recommendations come through on a computer screen, or how do they know where to put the money?
I think that it depends on which firm you're at. So I am not with any firm other than my own. I'm
Right.
a RIA, Registered Investment Advisor. I am the IAR, so all of the disclosures are getting put out there. Um,
Yeah.
but in terms of portfolio, so I think you could say in terms of a blanket statement that most all financial services firms have their own model portfolios,
Okay.
which you can do an asset allocation questionnaire, figure out how much expectation there is for, returns, the tolerances for somebody's
Risk.
volatility, where
Right.
their panic button is, and you can put them into a model portfolio. There are some advisors who only do that type of investment placement for their clients. There's other advisors who, get right into the nitty gritty. They love the analytics. They want to really pick their own portfolios right down to individual stocks. So there's a wide range of how you can put a client portfolio together. The way that I've operated is always just customized. I'd look at what somebody already has and what makes sense, and then retrofit around what they might have. If we're starting from scratch, we base it on what their appetite is for
Right.
for all of the variables, the good years and the bad years, because and I take a long time. I take a fair amount of time getting to the heart of what's important to the client in terms of the investment specifically. However, the investments come later. I like to lead with the financial planning
Yeah.
conversations because I always say it's like going to the doctor. If you go to the doctor and just ask them to write you a prescription, that would be malpractice, right? Like
Yeah.
they can't just you sit there and get a prescription. You have to have a basis for that recommendation. And so that's the way I like to operate. Figure out what's going right, what they already have working in their favor, what is missing, what are the gaps, especially when it comes to risk. I don't do home and auto insurance, but it's part of, as far as selling it, but it's part of what we include in a plan. Somebody may be grossly underinsured, or maybe just they have undue risk in terms of needing an umbrella policy because
Yeah.
they've got lots of toys and they have assets worth protecting and they have teenage drivers, all of those
I
things.
didn't even know what that was until my insurance guy was like, "Do you have an umbrella? Did you just say trampoline?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, come in."
Exactly.
Like,
Right.
okay.
Yeah. And, it doesn't matter how much money you have. If at the end of the day there's a
Right.
tragedy and it's all gone, it doesn't matter who has it, how much you have, and how it's being managed. If there's risk out there that is worth protecting, I really feel like you have to start with managing the risks and then building out the portfolios as part of the long-term strategic plan. But what needs to be addressed right here, front and
Right.
center, just like beneficiaries.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of
In life
like
insurance.
everybody go check your beneficiaries on your bank accounts, cuz I will bet, 9 times out of 10 most people don't have a beneficiary on their bank accounts. And so just simple things like that.
Yeah, you're making me think about whether there's a beneficiary in my bank accounts right now. So, one of the things that I have found when I try to refer is that people are like, "I don't have enough money for that."
Yeah.
And I also know some of my friends that are like, "Yeah, I'll take your clients, but only the ones that are over $1 million."
Right.
And that made me really sad as a human when I was released from someone and given to somebody else because I didn't make money like that as a teacher, but my parents had bought IRAs.
Yeah.
So what do you do with that?
If we start with financial planning, that paves the road. And I look at everything as a relationship. At this point in time, I don't have minimums. Like literally, the minimum is $1,000, and that's just a platform minimum.
Sure.
But I don't have a requirement to do investments as part of our firm's standard
Yeah.
because we can start with financial planning. And there, a lot of people are in their 40s and 50s. All of their money's in the retirement plan through work,
Hmm.
and they wouldn't meet those requirements of $1 million to work with that advisor unless they were doing financial planning, perhaps. And so that's where one of the ways that we fit in is we can help guide you, help get you retirement ready
Right.
by doing financial planning and not requiring you to bring in $1 million to
Yeah.
work
And I
with
find
us.
people like forget about the equity that they have in their house,
Yes.
right? And that generally speaking, when you sell your big house and you go into a smaller house, there's going to be money there, right? So I watch people walk out with a check for 350,000 or $400,000 and I'm like, you're not putting that in a checking account, are you, right? Like
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that it, goes someplace where it's earning interest, but I feel like it's such a complicated it's not complicated when you get in on the front end of it and somebody shows you. That's been one of the biggest blessings is being able to say yes because we were really saying no to a lot of things on the front end, right?
Right. And that's, I think, the value of advice and paying for advice. If I had paid for advice when I bought my first home, I wouldn't have bought it.
Right.
And that would have saved me thousands and thousands of dollars. I just wasn't prepared financially to buy it. I didn't know how to plan ahead and think about all the contingencies that come with home ownership. And, the old adage of you should buy instead of renting, build the equity yourself. For me in that situation, it wasn't the right guidance, but it was just conventional wisdom. And so it doesn't matter, in my opinion. I love helping young people. I love helping
Same.
people who are just like starting over and getting their foundation rebuilt after whatever type of like a major life event. And I like helping people get ready for retirement. What I found so many times is the ones who come and they start with the financial planning process and they don't have investments with us, invariably, like you said, something happens. They sell their house, there's an inheritance.
Yep.
There's so many job changes right now. Amazon's one of them, like there's just so many things that come with life events
Yeah. And
that
people
you
who don't
need.
even know where their stuff is,
Yeah.
right?
And
Where
then you don't, in that type of situation when it's kind of a crisis usually, and certainly emotional, that's not the time to start interviewing. It should be
no.
something that you do well in advance.
Yeah, and I feel like over and over again, because I have the same thing with first time home buyers, right? They're like, well, I can't afford to buy a house, but they're paying $1,800 a month in rent. And I'm like, well, let's just see. Let's
Yeah.
just see whether it makes sense. There's a guy that ran the Jersey Mike's, absolutely loved him. His name's Connor. And every time that we would go in there to get subs, he would say, and here's my real estate agent who won't let me buy a house because he would get in bidding wars. And I would be like, it's a short-term loss or win for a long-term loss. Like, don't buy that house. The roof is bad. You need money for the furnace. You need this, you need but we just had to work together to figure out truly what his plan was. And if I didn't know that he wanted his own Jersey Mike's, it would have, so many other things over here would have made sense. And that's what I love about you. I feel like it's tell me what exactly you're trying to do because it matters if you want to buy a property in Florida. It matters if you want to pay off your house. It matters, what kind of money you want to leave your kids. That was one of mine. They did this algorithm thing, right? In Jack and Henry, we're going to have all this money and I was going to die making it. And I was like, no, sorry, Jack and Henry. Like, I'm
There's
not
also
doing that.
enjoying it while you're
Right.
alive,
Like
right?
I want to live my life. That's why I love that you do it in that way.
Yep, and that's why we call it lifestyle financial planning.
Yeah.
And I'm very supportive of the idea of legacy and leaving something in the community foundation, or to
Absolutely.
your church, or what, to other individuals. But also, there's so much positive impact that can come by making an impact in people's lives that they remember you after you're gone, and that you can have something that it lives on.
Yeah.
And that takes what you're doing right now, and that is part of that living legacy. So there's living legacy and lasting legacy, and I don't think it has to be either or. I think it definitely can be both.
I love living and lasting. That's fantastic. I'm going to steal that. So you wrote, is it 2 books? It's 2, right?
So I am a contributing
Because
author in my
part
first
is
one,
so
and then
fun.
Going Rogue was all mine. So I kind of needed training wheels.
Okay.
And so being a contributing author in the first book gave me the confidence and the courage.
Yeah.
Both of those together. I knew there was a need, and I just felt myself or heard myself repeating the same things again and again.
That's
and
when
so,
you know you need
Yes.
to write a book or do a podcast when people over and over again, you're like, okay, no. You sound like Charlie Brown's parents. Yeah.
Yep, and that's exactly how it morphed. And, I always think that no matter what we're doing, we're paving the way for our next opportunity, and
Absolutely.
everything's a building block. And as long as we learn from our lessons that could be called failures, there's always something more that we can take. So, doing Going Rogue, it wasn't just me. I thought I was going to write a book, and it was going to be a bunch of words on a black and white page, and it's so much more than that now.
Yeah.
And it took a team, and it was an international team.
Mhm.
And one of the things I was able to do is I thought like it was about 2016 that I thought I should write a book, but I didn't really know how. I didn't know who I was writing to. I didn't know who could help me. So I thought, oh, I'll just do a workbook and I'll do an online course because the
Yeah.
whole like online, just sell your course, make money while you sleep. That idea became, pretty popular about that time. And so I started putting together things for that, which then I was able to, because I didn't know how to market myself
Huh, okay.
online like
Yeah,
that, and I
yeah.
didn't know who
The
to.
click funnels and all
Uh,
the things that yeah.
yeah. So the content that I created, I was able to transfer over and use for the book.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's
That's
just
that's
building that.
super
And
cool.
now we're still using it today. So we actually pre-sold it at the B event
Yes.
in
So good.
2020.
Yes.
And the free downloadable workbook in there is now what we use in as part of our base for our strategy sessions with
So I
clients.
loved that because I felt like what it allowed me to do is get all of the post-it notes that were in the air to sort of land and really make a decision about what made sense. And I do feel like that changes, for me anyway, year 3 to 5 to 7 to 10 in checking in. Are those still the goals? What makes sense now? Because I'll be the first one to say, like, I thought this was not a reciprocal relationship. And I asked to, so we had a financial obligation that I wasn't expecting. And so I was running around trying to sell every single house in the entire world. And then my financial planner saw some of that hustle energy and was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "What do you mean? What am I doing? I'm going to make the money as fast as I possibly can to, make these tuition payments." Um, and so he was like, "Oh no, 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 no! We give you the money. Like we can write the money. We can write the checks, and then you can backfill it so that you don't feel like you're going to throw up every day." But even that, right? Like
Taking the stress off of your shoulders, the
absolutely. And as
weight.
somebody
Yeah.
like you wouldn't have told me years and years ago that this is how to save money and what to do and what to live off of and, clip your Kohl's coupons and don't buy those shoes right now, we wouldn't have been able to say yes in this other space. So I just have so much gratitude for the way that you do it compared to the way that I hear some people do it, right? Like I'm just going to take XYZ out of your check and we'll chat with you in a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I will say that our firm is not the cheapest when it comes to paying for advice.
Right. But you make more in the end if you
It's
have
an
better
investment in
advice
yourself.
generally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And, I do something, I go rogue. Like, if you feel like the strategy session wasn't worth your time, I tell people, just tell me and I won't charge you. I don't have to charge you
Yeah.
if it wasn't worth your time. Nobody's ever taken me up on that. So I know it must be valuable.
Well, of course it's valuable. I mean, just the amount of history that you have
Yeah.
is valuable. Now we're like grown-ups,
Right.
where
Yeah.
we've got some street cred, I feel like. Know a couple of
Well,
things.
now we're at the point where when I interviewed you for the book,
Yeah.
you spoke about teaching people to fish.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do it all, and you don't have to be running around like a chicken, trying to close that next deal and do it all. You can train others. And I think that's the beautiful point that we've evolved to individually in our own expertise areas that we can now give back. And that's another legacy that we can help other people do what we do and maybe even do it better than we do.
And you're doing that right now with Holly, which I think is so fantastic. Like
Yep.
there's a whole nother side of Melissa where she elevated me to really the front cover of our sorority magazine that turned into like a 3-page spread. And like this girl, she will make space for you. Like she will expand your territory in ways that I'm sorry, I'm gonna cry. That's so
Aw.
funny. But I think it's like it's a space of you are so selfless and you are not like let me shine before you. It's just such a beautiful heart center that you have to pull people forward. And I absolutely adore you for it.
Thank you.
Because there were so many people, I'm sure in your space too, that like tried to take me out instead of, bringing me along. There were many that did, both sides of it. But I just feel like at this point in our lives, it's so incredibly important to bring somebody forward. And watching you do that in your team has been just beautiful. I love that. So tell me a little bit about how you're growing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a team of 4 right now. One of them is actually in Tennessee, and she and I have been accountability partners. We were in the same mentorship program, and lo and behold, one day it just everything clicked, and she said, I want to work on your team.
Yeah.
And she focuses on divorce. So speaking of books, I wrote the foreword to her book. Her book is OSHIT. I'm
Right.
getting divorced. And so what her specialty is to help the people not decide if they're getting divorced or not. It's like if it's decided, then she helps them through mediation and coaching and helps save them time and money
Yeah.
to just get it done. And so it's a really beautiful way of being able to serve clients in that really terrible time of life. So she asked me to write her foreword, which I did, and we didn't know where that was going to lead. But now, like 2 or 3 years later, she's part of our team on the financial services side. So
Love
she's an
that.
advisor,
That's so cool.
and she wants to focus on the divorce aspect. But there's always a conduit to the financial piece after the divorce, so it just really makes sense to have that available.
Sure.
And then Holly came to me actually, and she'll be okay with me saying this, but she came to me one day wanting to know if she could be my client. And at the end of the day, I ended up offering her a position
Love that.
on our team. And so she learned all things financial services and is now an advisor. So we just hired Maria, who joined us 3 weeks ago.
So cool.
And yeah, she's doing a bang up job too. So it's just really awesome to be able to leave the office and come do things like this. And I was actually on vacation when Maria joined us, and Holly was taking the ship by the helm and leading it. So
Was that Machu Picchu? I was so jealous when I saw you in Machu Picchu. I want to go to Machu Picchu. I should have discussed this with you, my dream of Machu Picchu, and gotten your backpack.
yes, you should, and you should hike into Machu Picchu.
Yes. I want
Yes.
that. I want
Yep.
to do that part. So you have the most beautiful office. She sits directly on the channel.
Which you helped make
Well,
that a reality.
I loved that so much. That whole thing, I loved it so much.
I was
that-
in Peru when I saw the Facebook post about that office coming on
Oh
the
my
market.
gosh, it was so good. It was so good. The whole thing. If there's going to be anybody there, I just absolutely love that it's you. But if someone wants to get engaged and have a little bit of your time, what is the best way for them to do that?
So Holly and I both do what we call welcome calls. It's the first conversation with us. If you're at the point where you want to have a conversation, you just go to schedule right at our website. We have mmg-wealth.com, and you can book a welcome call right
Okay.
from there. There's a couple of questions we ask you to answer, not because we're so much screening you, but more that we want you to start thinking more introspectively about your financial position. So that's a great way to start. We have a FAQ page. We've got our bios for all of us as team members, our blog, our podcast episodes are
Yeah.
there. So there's a lot of information there to get to know us. I always say that there's truly, I believe, not enough advisors to go around for all the people who could actually benefit from
Yeah.
having an advisor. So I don't think it's competitive or cutthroat. I encourage people to make sure it's a good fit, that it's a good relationship, that you feel comfortable taking advice from the person that you're working with when it comes to your money. So that's a great place to start, but you can also go and get a copy of my book, Going Rogue.
Yes.
It is at the Bookman and at the bookseller here locally. It's at the Fruitport Library and the pharmacy in Fruitport.
And you want it you give all the money away.
Yeah, so this year,
So sweet. You gave the B event money, my nonprofit. Was so kind.
It's such a good feeling to be able to release it. That's
love
kind of my
that.
my phase of life right now, is just releasing things, and it has just been a really great way to know I'm making an impact and not having to manage it or have my own foundation. I can just trust that it's going out where it needs to go. So this year, all proceeds from the book are going to Food Hugs, which Chef Jenna
so
has
good.
founded. And looking forward to making that donation at the end of the year.
She just did this Bless the Server thing. It was the sweetest thing. I don't know if you saw it on Facebook, but everybody should watch that too. She someone had some personal struggles, and she found a restaurant, or I think she found her at Uccello's, I think, and they gave her like $1,000. It
Awesome.
was so sweet. I love women that, in men, I love that sort of, I'm just going to do something like so positive for your day today, just cause, and I love that you do that so much in your business. I would, highly recommend that anyone who is in a space where they're looking to speak to somebody like Melissa, get in on the early side. I was incredibly, grateful and very blessed to have parents who looked at some of that and explained what it was, but I don't think that that is like common.
Yeah.
So what do you tell your son about like shoring up financial? Is it all osmosis and he knows all the things now?
Well, he just turned 20, so he knows quite a
Is he a
bit.
saver?
Yeah. Well, yes. Yeah. Um, but I don't know if he would have if I hadn't been intentional about it. So he actually just moved into his own condo. He bought a condo, did his 20% down, and is living independently. He bought it when he was 19, and people kind of go, "How did he do that?" And I said, "Well, he worked and he saved, and we set up systematic investments." So he not only was putting into retirement, but he was putting into a non-retirement account, which then he had money to be able to use for the
Yeah.
down payment. Also, he's in the University of Life, so at this point in time, he's not going to college. So he's just got different priorities.
Well,
And
your husband's a salesman and you're an entrepreneur. So, I mean, I'm probably in the same boat. One or the other is going to go rogue
yeah,
on the 4-year plan. Perhaps we'll see,
yeah.
but the college plan that we worked, but I love that. So if you were to tell anybody who was out there right now feeling like this is just either I'm too far in the hole or it's impossible, because there are stories like this in that book that are
Yeah.
fantastic. Um, or I don't have enough money to be able to speak to somebody like Melissa, what would your response to that be?
Sure. There's two things. And Henry Ford said it best, whether you think you can or you think you can't,
Right.
you're right. So it starts with mindset, and it's the inner capacity to be able to ask for help.
Yeah.
And my whole world changed. Like, we would not be having this conversation right here, right now, had I not asked for help. And the place where I had to ask for help, and it's really humbling and vulnerable to say this as a now successful advisor. I was 2 years into being an advisor, and I had to take a job as an assistant, which was humbling. And in the course of that, I found myself at the grocery store charging my groceries. And I was like, something's got to change. And so I asked for help. I asked my sister, who was 9 years younger than me, for help. And we made a little spreadsheet and created a budget. And if I hadn't done that and taken some major action steps, I wouldn't be in financial services, because if we declare bankruptcy, we're going to get our licenses pulled.
Oh, that's a thing.
Yeah, yeah. And that was 20 years ago. So there might be other ways
Right.
around that now, but that was the reality, and that's all I knew at that point. And so I believe, like, I created something called sunny day funds. So conventional wisdom tells us to have
Sorry.
tells us to have an emergency fund or a rainy day fund.
Right.
Well, I was like, I'm going to put a positive spin on that. Let's have sunny day funds.
Oh, I love that.
And so essentially what I did with Brock is he was investing not in retirement alone, but also in non-retirement. So he had access to that money
Yeah.
for a future purchase. And so, I believe in separate bank accounts for different expenses that you're going to have in the future. That's kind of like short term, but there's now the health savings account. So that's a form of an or a sunny day fund. Having your retirement accounts, that's a sunny day fund, because it's for the future. That'll be a sunny day when you retire, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
But there's also things along the way. If somebody's struggling with overspending for Christmas gifts or whatnot, then that's why some of the banks will have a holiday account, like a holiday club saver account. But you can create your own. And so many times in the residential space, you probably hear this, like, I can't pay off my mortgage because then I won't be able to pay my taxes and my insurance.
Right.
And people just think they can't. So just make a payment to yourself every month for your own escrow inside of a bank account, and then that money is there. And it's really served a lot of people well when it comes to their vehicles and being able to have money on hand to make repairs
Yeah,
or
I
buy or
bet.
just do the maintenance, like getting the new tires. Tires aren't cheap anymore. So having the ability to just look at your finances and set up systems so you don't have to have the discipline and the emotion doesn't get in the way, then that's like one of the very first steps that you don't need an advisor for, but you might need the advisor to help you have clarity about where to start.
I think that is so important. And the reality of it is you don't know what your sunny day funds would even be for unless you sit down and intentionally plan out what is happening in your life.
Yeah.
And the
Like
biggest,
like a homeowner, if they're buying a older home,
right.
what's the life expectancy on the furnace and the hot water heater and the dishwasher, any of those appliances that can go, and when one goes, they all go. So I always recommend saving like 1 to 2% per year of the value of the home as a
Smart.
target amount, because you're going to have those expenses at some point in time. So if it's a bigger one, you need to be saving for longer.
Right. I feel like one of the things that I hear later on when I meet people is there's some level of unapproachableness about us once we are in this like 40 to 50 range. And I often have to say, like, please don't compare your beginning to my middle to end of my career and all of that. Like, we all have these hard stories of things that we were working two jobs, or we were a single mom, some of my friends, or we were whatever it is, right? We went through a divorce and that was traumatic or whatever. I feel like the biggest thing that, both of us have been able to offer people is just ask for help.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if we can't help you, we'll say, we'll probably at this point say, I can't help you, but I know somebody who can.
Exactly. Yes.
But that is, I had to get like low and humble in my own career too, and just say, like, I don't know. And now I tell my sons, I don't like math. I don't like money. I like real estate math. That's super fun. That somehow all clicks. But I don't like this stuff that you do. And I don't have to. I just have to have an expert in my life where you can do that thing, right?
Yeah, we
And
can't
I
all be experts in everything.
100%. And somebody else doesn't like real estate, and somebody else might not like whatever, being a doctor. Like, I can't do Tabitha's job. I don't like blood. It's not going to sort, right?
Right.
That's the thing that I think is so incredibly special about you is that you're just so down to earth. Like, once you meet you, and I can remember like being like low key intimidated when you would like walk by, years and years ago with your like amazing heels and your suits and your Louis Vuitton bag and like the whole shebang. And I just now feel like so foolish because it took years for us to put together that we were in the same sorority at different schools. And, then you were speaking at the B, and like, you're just such an approachable, special human being. So if there's anything that I've learned out of my relationship with you, it's, for heaven's sakes, like, if you need help or you're stuck somewhere, call her, ask her, and she's going to do everything that she possibly can to build a plan that makes sense.
Yeah, I will help in any way I can. And it's because, it may have been in my DNA, but somebody passed on my resume at a certain point in my career, which opened doors, unlocked doors that were locked with 100 padlocks, and it made all the difference. And so I really just want to be able to give back.
Yeah, well,
And do that for somebody else.
you shine.
Or lots of other people.
Yes, I'm like, for somebody else, I think you've done it at this point for an awful lot of people. We could probably just write a book about cool things that you did for all of us. Maybe that's an idea too. So I'm so grateful to have you here, friend. And I hope that people reach out and help themselves by asking for help from you. You're a special, special woman, and you're providing a service to our community that is incredibly important and has a beautiful legacy. So thank you for being here. I'm Megan Heritage. This is Positivity in Practice. Please like and follow. We'll see you next time. If you have liked this podcast, please like and subscribe. We just made it to over 1,000 subscribers, which is really exciting. Thank you to Rediscover, who helped us to do that. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.